Hi everyone, welcome to Living La Vita Loca podcast, a retro gaming podcast for some of your retro gaming needs. My name is Fazz.
And I'm Rich.
And I was meant to put an inflection on Vita because this is a Vita-centric podcast, this specific one, that is in, and I didn't do it. So I'm putting it back on now, Living La Vita Loca podcast.
Well done.
So the reason that this is a Vita-centric one is, well, I said a couple of weeks ago that I'd started to see more love in my own heart for the Vita recently.
Yep.
And one of the things that has helped me do that is just to start to research a little bit more about it in terms of a literary, I can't speak, literary sense. Because it's really interesting, and this is why, I guess, when we started the podcast as well, I was interested in this, is these kind of, the Vita probably less so now, well maybe not, than the PSP, but these consoles that came around in with internet accessibility era, but have been dropped by their own publishers and developers, and now sit in this weird era of, like, when we talk about it, it's getting on now, PSP being 20 years old, for example, and the Vita being, 2012, wasn't it? Yeah, so 13 years old. Yeah. To think that they are retro, to me, sort of, in that sense, that you kind of, they're not supported or anything anymore. And it feels like there's not as much written about them as previous. So whenever you see previous consoles, whenever you see all the history of consoles and things, you don't tend to see like a lot of things kind of in that era where it's like, oh, I love the PS3 and this is like a massive amount of information about the PS3 or anything like that. And my point that I'm making here is that this chap who's written this Vitazine that we have in front of us is called Sandeep Rai, and he is known as Too Old for Gaming. So he's got an Etsy shop and he's on social media and things, but I just want to kind of celebrate him because he's a really good historian of the Vita and the PS3. It's the only kind of thing I've found really out there that actually has some information, that is some background reading. And I found this really useful and informational to be able to say, actually, there is still things, there are still gems out there on the Vita that we can look forward to, hopefully. And also, it's nice to kind of review some of the things we've done previously as well. So, that's where I was coming from with it when I brought it around to your house. I was like, we're doing this. And so, excuse me. And this little, it's called the Vitazine, this little magazine that is, I think it was £4.50, I think it was. Really well put together. He's done his own top 100 Vita games, and then also there is a community top 100 Vita games in here, and it was voted on by 840 people, so he's got quite a big community around himself somehow, in terms of and people that obviously love the Vita, so it's quite a good sample size really, 840 people to say what are your top 100 Vita games. And I thought, rather than going through all those and let's do what I was going to say what we're good at, but that's not fucking true, is it? Let's do what we've done before and try and do a little bit of a draft, if you will, of the community top 100 Vita games that was voted for in this Vitazine. So I will put this photo up on the social, on our Instagram, so people can see it as well, what's actually on there. But what we're going to do is we're going to build up a PS Vita collection. So, you would say, all right, okay, I've got a gaming collection, like we've done, for example, with Atari and things like that. What would you put on there? What would you put onto your PS Vita collection from this top 100 list? I've put a couple of constraints on it for Rich and myself. So there has to be at least one racing game, or I guess, we'll call it racing games. One fighting game or a fighter, one RPG, one collection game, which is the type of game that basically they're all the ones that were ported over, that is in from earlier PlayStations to the Vita. One platformer and one sports game, and then we've got 4 of our own choices, 4 wild cards basically. So we've left it a little bit open-ended that we can pick some stuff out. These could be games that we've played, if we've played, and we might have reviewed on the podcast. So if we do, that it certainly will be able to probably give you the scores that we gave him on the podcast. or it might be something that we've not played before, and we can look forward to in the future. Or it might be something we might have not played, but it's certainly be nice to sort of mention and say, actually, I would love to play this at some point, or I think this would be really good if you're going to sell the PS Vita to somebody. This would be a cool thing to put onto a collection to say, this will probably showcase the Vita really well. That all makes sense to us because we're just deciding what we're doing in the middle of the podcast now. You've been very quiet so far, Rich.
Well, that's because I'm glancing from my notes, back at the list, back at my notes, back at the list, because I've got a couple on here that I'm like, was that definitely on the list, or have I just invented that?
Does it really matter?
Well, I
think it does for the sense of competition.
I'm reasonably confident that I am safe.
That's okay. That's fine. Fair enough. We'll do it that way. I mean, I'm gonna be honest. Like, as in, we'll just do this for a little bit of fun, and it's just nice to the list really was a bit of a I guess a building block to
it's
the
a prompt,
idea.
Isn't
Yeah,
it?
exactly.
Problem is that I keep looking at the list. I'm like, I could include that though.
Well, this is what's fun about it, isn't it? Because you've got 100 games, and we've got to just take 10 of those games. And this isn't a list about This isn't a list about what the best games are. It's more of, I mean, certainly for me, I did it this way. Rich might do it differently, which is absolutely, fun as well. But my list is, what would I put on there that I would like to play? If someone said, here's 10 games for the Vita, these are the only 10 games you could have. Like, with the PSP Go pack, for example, that is in, they threw a load of games on there. It's like, right, okay, out of these 100 games, which of these 10 would I probably pick to take with me in the apocalypse?
Oh god, the apocalypse would be a slightly different list, I think.
Oh well, no, I've definitely and then there's definitely some games on here that I'm like, oh yeah, no, I could see me just playing that one. that could just be the one that I just play forever. So
sorry if you've already mentioned this though. Just to check, we're not allowed to pick the same one.
Yes,
right?
Sorry, yes. So we're going to build up our own collections, and this is where it's like the draft situation, pretty much. Sorry, I didn't mention this. And basically, we're going to steal off each other probably at some point. So I've made 2 options.
Oh yeah, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and then we can be disappointed.
More.
Yeah, and then we can be disappointed. At some points probably if someone steals the one. Right. I mean, the thing is, there were definitely 2 options, and one of those options is much lesser to me than the other one. So, do you want to kick us off then, dude? Shall we start off with the racing game? So, which racing game out of this list would you pick? You can give as much or as little context as you like about it in terms of why why you would. I put a couple of lines about why I'd pick which one.
I would probably pick. Oh god. And I've only got 2.
I've got 2 too. There's only 2.
Now I'm at crunch time and I'm struggling to choose.
Should I name the 2 games that are on the list that I think that are on the list? Should I name them?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
So I think the only racing games that are on this list are Wipeout 2048 and Sonic All-Stars Racing Transformed.
Cool. I'm glad you said that.
What have you got?
Because I've got Need for Speed Most Wanted.
Oh yeah, shit. Right, okay.
What's that number? 15.
Yeah.
So I'll go for Need for Speed Most Wanted because I've talked about it before. And also, you didn't know it was there.
No, there we go. Well, you weren't very well when we did that podcast, were you? So that was our Burnout Legends / and we just did it over transcript to each other, didn't we? Like, we just WhatsApp message to each other in audio and spliced it together into a podcast like maniacs.
It's probably better than I talked about.
You weren't happy. You didn't sound happy. Not about the game, but just like
it's. I think it's the kind of game that if you were going to make the same thing nowadays, you would make different choices about certain things. Don't get me wrong. Like the other game that I had here that I very, very, very nearly picked was Sonic and All-Stars Racing. Because, I've dabbled with it previously on different consoles. It was bright, breezy, quick, really interesting, really fun. Would like to play more of it.
I didn't even know that was a sequel, that is insane. Because, I didn't. I thought when I looked before all the Sonic All-Star Racings and stuff, I assumed they were just one game and maybe it had a remaster or something, but actually that one's the transformed version, isn't it? So you can you fly planes and boats and stuff like halfway through it transforms. Yeah, and that you can sort of get speed boosts depending on how you time your button presses for transforming, if I remember rightly, and stuff like that. And I'm a
Sega fan anyway, so it's kind of fun to spot all the little nods and all that kind of stuff. But I am going to pick Need for Speed Most Wanted.
Okay.
Just because I was so breathtakingly ill when I was talking about it. But it is like, I think it is probably my go-to Vita racing game.
Oh, right, okay.
I think, on balance, it's certainly the one I've put the most time into.
I was going to, I mean, a bit of a wide question, but is it... I feel like, and probably need to look at a list before I ask this question, really, but I feel like that's probably a lot of people's favourite Need for Speed as well, like the most wanted one that came out then.
I think it's usually up there.
Yeah, I see it being spoke about the most, almost out of most Need for Speeds. Or, you know, I mean, apart from like Underground, everyone's like, oh, remember this? And then it was a 4 out of 10 game. But
yeah, I remember it. I remember it just fine.
No, well, that's fair enough. Cool. Good choice. Well, that makes it easier then, doesn't it? I love that. I'm like, there's only 2. Oh, wait, no, there's not. I think maybe in my head I made it just so that there was only 2 for me. So I will take Wipeout then. Again, we've also... I can't remember... What did you give Need for Speed Most Wanted? Did you give it a 7?
I can't remember. I want to say it was about a 7.
Yeah.
I could probably check it. Give me a couple of minutes.
But well, don't worry about it. It's fine. It's cool. No one's going to hold us to it. I don't think it's fine. Don't worry about it. It's all right.
I think it was a positive review.
Yes, it was, yeah. So I'm going to go for Wipeout 2048. Only because I also had, like, say, Sonic All-Stars Racing on there. But, you know, to have a weapons-based kart game that isn't Mario Kart, I would be interested in playing that at some point, and you know, so I'd like to check it out. But I think Wipeout, considering it's a launch title, you know, it looks so incredible for 2012. Do you know what I mean? And you were just absolutely, and you know, all the way back in episode 6, like, as in, absolutely loved that game. And I remember thinking, oh, we were having a competition about which Wipeout was better, pure, or 2048, and we both came out with 9 out of 10s. And I was certain, I was like, there's no way that is in there, you know, the Wipeout can be so good in every single iteration, and yet both are 9 out of 10 games. And I was like, oh, right, okay, 2048 on the Vita sounds really good. And even so much so that we're going to go back and look at the Amiga collection, aren't we? I think at some point in the summer. So,
I mean, without wishing to spoiler things too much, I think that's the fact that exists is probably why I have just picked Need for Speed.
Oh, right, okay.
If you catch me drift.
Yes, yeah, okay, that makes sense. Right, I see. Okay. Is that not cheating? Feels like cheating, maybe.
Well, you know, you didn't put any criteria on that, did you?
That's fine. Okay, fair enough, cool. Yeah, no, you're right, yeah, I didn't know. But yeah, there's a lot of variety in that game, that from when you spoke about it, you said there's a lot of variety of the tracks. Like, you get like really wide tracks and stuff, so there's a lot going on, and yeah, I'm really excited to go and visit that in the Amiga collection, which I won't speak about anymore because somebody's cheating. Right, okay, cool. Fighter. Now again, I'm going to say this, I don't know if it's true. I feel like there was only really 2 possible options, but there might not have been. There might have been more then, so I don't know.
I can do you at least 3.
Okay, cool.
Looking at this list.
Yeah, well, I mean, you'd know better than me, so... right, okay, well, why don't you say what yours is then, that you're picking?
I am going to go with... Oh, God, am I? Street Fighter Cross Tekken.
Yeah, that was one of the ones I had on the list.
I very nearly went with Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3, but the reason that I'm going Street Fighter Cross Tekken is... I think, personally, of those 2, it's not as good as Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom. Also on the list, I've spotted Dead or Alive 5 Plus. Again, I think Dead or Alive is arguably the better game, I think.
Yeah.
But Street Fighter Cross Tekken, you can't really play it on any more modern platforms.
Yeah.
It's basically
a Vita exclusive, effectively.
Well, not quite.
Yeah,
but your options for playing it are very, 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 very limited to this kind of generation, and therefore, any way that you can play it should be highlighted. This is me highlighting it.
So it was made by Capcom.
Yeah.
Who they're Street Fighter.
Yeah.
Yes. Right. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
And then the idea was that Bandai Namco, who make Tekken, would make a Tekken Cross Street Fighter.
Oh, right, okay.
Didn't materialise.
Which is weird, because this is really well received. I mean, you gave it 7 out of 10 at the time.
Yeah.
Would you stick by that? Do you think that's probably the right score for it?
I think so, yeah. There's a touch to... Like, I'm not a fan of the gem system that it uses, and all that kind of stuff. And I think there's... Well, I think a lot of that kind of stuff that it does could be seen as a sort of stepping stone towards a lot of the ways that fighting games try to make themselves accessible nowadays. Just misguided.
Yeah.
So rather than like simplifying the controls and stuff like that as an option in the menu, it's you have options made of various gems that you can equip and stuff like that. And it swing and a miss on that front.
Okay.
But it's still Capcom doing Street Fighter stuff. It's kind of like pizza. Like there's no such thing as bad pizza. It's just varying degrees of quality.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Cool. Well, I will then pick up Dead or Alive 5 Plus. Again, something that you reviewed back on in the podcast. You gave it a 7 out of 10. So very much of a likeness. I guess from what I remember from Dead or Alive, from your review and stuff, really good graphics, really good control. Floaty boobs was probably a criticism. I think really the lack of gravity for chest regions.
Yeah, odd gravity.
I mean, this was Dead or Alive 5 Plus for the Vita. So again, not exclusive, but certainly it was made for the Vita. But the Plus content, from what I remember you saying, was that it was mostly just sexy costumes. Was like the Plus content, and that feels a bit like that was.
Yeah, I can't remember what else would warrant the Plus. I'm sure there's something lurking in the menus, like I don't know, tournament mode or something like that. But I can't remember off the top of my head.
But something that I read about this that I can't remember what you said at the time, but that it had cross-play with PS3. That feels pretty. That is obviously a lot of things kind of started to do the cross-play sort of thing. But I feel like a fighter game is probably a really good thing to have cross-play on, because you can just jump straight into them, can't you? So, that's a positive for it as well. So, I'll go with Dead or Alive 5 Plus then. So that was, funnily enough, just for where they are on the list, just for the community top 100. It was 85 for Street Fighter Cross Tekken and 74 for Dead or Alive Plus. So, kind of like towards the lower in the list, but both in the same sort of place, really. So, cool. Okay, right. List is starting to take some shape now. RPGs. So, I am terrible with RPGs in terms of playing them ever. You have at it first. There's plenty on here, but it seems to be an RPG machine. But
well, that's the thing. It's definitely an area that it specialises in, I think. There are a lot of options. I did scroll Odin Sphere down, and then I was like, is it an RPG? Is it a beat 'em up? I would argue it's more of an RPG than not. I also jotted down Persona 4, and I was like, well, that's the obvious option. It's like ranked number 1 according to the community.
Number one on Metacritic.
Yeah,
you give it 9 out of 10.
It's basically the game on Vita.
It's the killer app for Vita, isn't it?
Yeah. And the other one that I've got jotted down, because I did just spot it on the list again, I was like, Ys Origin. Again, like kind of action RPG rather than RPG. But only reasonably recently picked it up and fully intend to play more of it and review it at some point. But I haven't. I think I'm going to have to go with Persona 4. Like, I kind of want to go with Ys, but Persona 4 is like the guy. It's the poster child. Yeah. Like that's the one thing that basically anybody that's played a Vita can agree on. Is that this game's quite good. So I think I'll go with that.
I think I remember at the time when you did the review of it, you were sort of saying that you jumped back into a save file that you'd already done 60 hours on.
That was a mistake.
And I'm like, oh god, that sounds like such a hard thing to do. So for somebody who never really plays RPGs, difficult choices, because I was like, oh right, and I had to do a little bit of research because I've not played any of these, and we've also not reviewed any of them on the podcast yet. The two choices I kind of gave myself really. I didn't. I think Persona would just be too much for me. It'd just be too much for my tiny little brain. I think I'd just be gone. So it is Ys, isn't it? YS. That isn't. Yeah. So I'm gonna say that there was 2 games I was looking at. There was the Ys 8, which is Lacrimosa of Dana.
Yeah, I think it's near enough.
And Soul Sacrifice Delta were the 2 that I was kind of looking at really. So the notes I had for Soul Sacrifice that I kind of dug up when I was doing a bit of research and things. So that was like Soul Sacrifice was like AAA gaming on the Vita.
It's one that I want to review at some point. I've got it kicking around.
Cool. The Delta apparently added quite a lot of extra content as well. So and apparently it was written down as it had been addictive with detailed combat, so around about 30 to 35 hours to kind of do the most simple completion of it really, but it was absolutely lauded really, and it is in at number 8 on our list. So
get around to that in a couple of years' time.
Yeah. Aren't you playing a couple of RPGs or something at the moment? Are you doing free plays or something? I'm sure you said you were doing like a 100-hour game or something, weren't you? You don't have to tell me what it is.
But... I was trying to do the Like a Dragon ones.
Right, okay, you're trying to get through them.
I was like, I just don't have time.
Don't
have time.
I know.
No time.
And then, so the other one, was like, say, Ys 8, which is the one I'm going to pick, actually. That comes in at number 20 on this community list. So that's about 35-hour minimum. 35 hours. Thing is, like, I think I remember completing Final Fantasy VII in about 38 hours or something like that, or at least getting Sephiroth and getting my ass handed to me at 38 hours, and probably needing like 6 hours more of like training. This actually came in at number 1. So for in the actual book itself, so not in this community 100. In the author's actual 100, he put this as his favourite game to play on the Vita. Just citing that it looks incredible, and the story to me sounded a little bit like Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening, in terms of like you're on an island. You kind of like crash land on an island, and then you're working your way off the island, basically. So that kind of spoke to me a little bit because I really enjoyed that aspect of Link's Awakening. This was again lauded; it was getting 9s and 10s, 10s out of 10s everywhere. With the combat graphics and music all cited as absolutely amazing. So that'd be my choice, I think, for my RPG. And again, much like you, then. So I think we'll probably just sign ourselves up for an episode at some point, then maybe to try and at least give some sort of idea around those 2 games. Probably I'll put it down like in a year's time or something. But yeah, we'll see with those. Cool. So far then, you've got. You want to run down your list so far?
I've just grabbed some Haribo now.
I'll tell you what. No, wait. Let's do another one. Let's do one more, and then we've got 5. Then right. Ignore me. Cool. Then we're moving on to now. Which collection game would you have in your collection? So there's a few different ones on this list.
Am I going first again?
You can do. Yeah, I'm being really kind. Well, how about we do this? Well, how about we do this then? So the first 5 you get to go first, and then your second 5.
Okay, cool. All right, fine. Metal Gear Solid.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yep.
The only other option, as far as I was concerned, was Final Fantasy X and 10-2, but I've not played either of them. I was, however, in the room for my wife playing through 10.
Yeah.
So like that would be the only reason, and knowing how much she dislikes so many of those characters. Metal Gear Solid gets it. For being the only one of these collections that I've actually played it to any great degree.
I don't know if I'm missing any now, because I can kind of reveal them a little bit, but the ones that I've got down that you possibly, I think, could play on the PS Vita, that actually, well, I mean, there's a lot, actually. I mean, I am missing
God of War, I can spot there.
God of War,
Ratchet
Sly Cooper, Ratchet and Clank, and then also the Jak and Daxter one, but Jak and Daxter I don't think is in that list because I think that the port was so horrible that a lot of people hated it. Metal Gear Solid, and like you say, the Final Fantasy X and X2. And I was a bit like, I had that written down on a list, and I was a bit like, does that count as a collection? Like, as in, 2 games? I mean,
a collection of 2.
Yeah, I was quite happy for it to be in there.
I'm pretty sure that God of War collection is 2 games.
It is, but it's 2 separate games. Whereas X2, is that not like? I mean, I don't know. I've not played.
Pretty sure it's separate enough.
Yeah, fair enough.
I'd argue that it was separate enough.
Okay, cool. Cool. So Metal Gear Solid. So you gave the Metal Gear Solid collection 8 out of 10 when we talked about it. I don't think that was necessarily the games, though, was it? Was it the porting of it. I don't know really. Or maybe
I mean, the fact that they managed to make it happen is pretty impressive. I mean, I'd probably, if I was reviewing it again now, I'd probably give it more like a 7, just because of the Vita's controls and it being a bit crampy.
Yeah. Fair enough.
But it's good. It's good.
Cool. So I kind of revealed my hand a little bit there about the things that I probably would choose between then, apart from Metal Gear Solid. So Metal Gear Solid was 14 out of 100. Final Fantasy X and X2 16 out of 100 in the list. 48th was God of War 1 and 2 remastered. But I'm just going to pick for what I've already played as well. So I'm going to come in for Sly Cooper. It's 57th on the list, but I played Sly 1 and I was suitably impressed by that game. And I've only heard things like 2 and 3 are better, as in, so that can't be a bad thing, because I thought Sly Cooper and the porting of it, I thought they did a really good job playing that on the Vita. Was the opposite of crampy. It was really comfortable and fun and breezy and easy to just love. Really, it was a difficult game, but really good. I mean, I gave that a 7 out of 10, which sounds like damn with faint praise, but that's what it felt like. And I think that series has probably got more to improve into as well. So at whatever point in my life I go back to play the Sly Cooper games on the PS Vita, I'm sure I'll be impressed by that too. So and I don't hate having it in my list. So right then, cool. Let's do it then. 5 games. Let's talk about what we've got so far then.
3, 4.
Fucking hell. Why can I not count to 10?
Hold your horses.
What is wrong with me? Oh my god, right, okay. Let's do the next one then. Jesus Christ.
It's got me paranoid. I've got it wrong now. 1, 2, 3.
I'm just so
4.
shit.
Yes, no, that is 4.
Right, let's do that.
Fine. You should have used a smaller list.
Yeah, I know, I just can't count. Right, okay. Platformer.
I've got, Fez was in the running. Mm-hmm. Just because, kind of cool puzzles and... Yeah. It's one of the I like stuff that's going to play with perspective and things like that, and it does some clever imaginative things. What I've gone for is Gravity Rush.
Okay.
I think arguably you could say that it could fall into a couple of different categories of what type of game it is, but I thought, you know what, I would argue that it was a 3D platformer just because so much of the time and so much of the mechanics are geared around movement and navigation.
Yeah.
And I figured, well, if that's not a platformer, then I would struggle to define a platformer for you.
Yeah.
So as a kind of anti-platformer, that's
the one with no platforms.
Yeah, that's going to give you some clever ways to get around in an interesting way. And the movement is the most fun bit of the game, I think. And hurtling around. Definitely gets the nod from me.
Cool, fair enough. That's it, number 2 out of 100 on that. I feel like I'm doing like the FA Cup draw or something, but just so you've taken so far number 1 and number 2 from the lists there, which makes sense because they clearly are very well rated games by a lot of people. So that makes sense. I need to ask a question here because it will help almost help me understand. Would you class Tearaway as a platformer?
Would I class it as a platformer? Ooh, yes.
Okay.
Yes, I would. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because my choice in my head that I made was Rayman Legends and Tearaway. Tearaway's number 5 in the list, and you gave it 9 out of 10 on the podcast previously. But I am going to opt for Rayman Legends, mostly because I have reviewed Rayman Legends. It was lost to the ether of time because of a recording snafu. So I think it's probably about time that it had like a little, even if it's just a three line review from me. But I played it on the Vita and absolutely loved it. The fact that it's 12 years old and it just looks like it was made today. It just, it's incredible. It's really rhythmic and flowing, and it controls really well. And the amount of content is ridiculous. That is just absolutely bursting with content. It's so bright, happy, sparkly, and I'm aware that Tearaway is the exact same as that. And that has all of the Vita features that work well, like you spoke about in your review. And actually, on the flip side of it, I'd say that the one thing that I wasn't super bowled over by was the Vita sort of touchscreen of the Legends. But isn't that just because I was like, well, actually, I've played this game before on a console, and I didn't really necessarily need that, but it works well enough. Do you know what I mean? The swiping, it's very very responsive to what you do. It's in, so it's not like it's bad or anything. It's not as if, it's like got loads of issues with it. It just wasn't necessarily the thing that I was in love with the most. But the actual game itself, to have Rayman Legends in your pocket, it just be absolutely sensational as a game still. I'm happy to have it on my list. So
nice.
There we go.
Nice.
I feel bad not having Tearaway in there, but at the same time, it's had its moment in the sun, and you've had your face in the sun on that game as well. So
yeah, that was awful.
Okay, so this is 5, right? The number 5.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
The number of fingers I have in my hand.
Yep.
All that kind of stuff. Okay, so do you want to just quickly run down what you've got on your list so far?
Yes. Then? Need for Speed Most Wanted, Street Fighter Cross Tekken, Persona 4 Golden, Metal Gear Solid Collection, and Gravity Rush.
Wow, that is a meaty list. That's a pretty impressive list.
That is alarmingly close to my own actual collection in real life. I don't know how I've done that.
Yeah, that's cool. Do you know what I mean? That it's nice that that's worked out that way. Cause you kind of go, oh, actually, I've collected the right games for me then.
Yeah, I kind of don't care what happens with the rest of the list.
Yeah, that's good.
Like anything else is a bonus.
And funnily enough, that's none of them are wildcard picks either. They're not like your choices picks. So, so I've got Wipeout 2048, Dead or Alive 5 Plus, Ys. 8 Lacrimosa of Dana, and Sly Cooper HD Collection, and Rayman Legends. So I can see the difference in our lists. You've got the bona fide classics, the actual gamers games, and I've got good games, don't get me wrong, but I've got the fun, happy, like jumpy aroundy, like it's in, bright, shiny, happy, lots of colours, keep you entertained like a baby. So,
all still to play for as we move into round 2.
That's fine. But the thing is, people might like that. So, we'll try and do a bit of a vote, I think, on these. We'll publish on our Instagram and see what people would
not
prefer.
A popularity vote.
No, well, it's not like, as in, like, it's just, look, the 100 best-selling games lists of all time that me, you, and Jack came up in episode 100, whether we like it or not, like as in I got about 17 votes and you and Jack got about 3 each. Yeah, it's just the way it works. I mean, it's just like, clearly my list must have been, that superior. So I genuinely looking at these now though, like objectively, like very much so. Like I think that yours is your list. That is in it works for you, but also I think would work for a hell of a lot more people than mine would, if that makes sense as well. So,
I mean, don't get me wrong, it's about to go off the rails.
Wow. Sports. So we have to pick a sports game. Again, there wasn't many on here. I am going to opt for Hot Shots Golf, I think, or Everybody's Golf. So I've played the PSP games for the podcast and really enjoyed both of them, to be honest. I'm excited to see Everybody's Golf, Hot Shots Golf, whatever we call it, coming back for the Switch as well. I don't think much changes with this game ever. Like, it just seems to just kind of like go, PS1, PS2, PS3, kind of like, and every single game kind of seems like it evolves quite well. But I was listening to a podcast the other week, which was a review of the PS1 version of this game, and it was like, oh, this is brilliant, and this is what happens in it, and I was like, that sounds just like what happened in the PSP version. And like, so imagine this launch title for the PS Vita would also, just be as good. But yeah, from what I know of Hot Shots Golf, and therefore what I would think of the Vita version, it's really accessible and fun. Like, and you kind of get it's the 3-point power system with a golfing sort of game and stuff, and it's like you press buttons to make that work, and it's dead easy for anyone to do. Do you know what I mean? I was playing a golf game on my Meta Quest the other day, just having a bit of downtime. Just thought, Sally went to bed early. It's like, I'm going to have a round of golf on my Meta Quest. Fuck me, I'm shit. Like actual golf, like as in I could not do. Real life golf, I'm bad. That is in, I could do it, but better than the Quest. Oh good lord, it was awful. But yeah, this is where is this for Hot Shots Golf? It's challenging, but again, shiny, happy, full of life. That kind of thing. Where I just feel like there's lots of like bells and whistles going on. So yeah, that'd be mine.
Nice. For me. Virtua Tennis 4 nearly got the nod because I played a lot of Virtua Tennis 3 on my Xbox when I was at uni. lot of happy memories. However, I am going to go for Ollie Ollie 2.
Yeah.
Because you've gone for bright, shiny, happy, light-hearted stuff. I've gone for look simple, will bust your balls. So very on brand. But yeah, I mean, like, I know we have talked about them previously quite a lot. And
Rightly so.
Rightly so, yeah. Like, and I get it. They're not always my cup of tea, but I will still dip in occasionally and just do a couple of rounds. Like, and it will be like a quick 5-10 minute. That's all I need.
Yeah, yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But it's still there.
It's all the ball busting.
You know. But yeah, but it's just enough. You know, just to remind me that I'm shite. But yeah, like, and I mean, it is objectively a great game. Subjectively.
It's funny because you reviewed Ollie Ollie really quite early on. We're gonna go back to doing some skating games or like that kind of culture sort of types of games when Tony Hawk's 3 and 4 comes out. And I did Ollie Ollie World as well. So we've talked, like you say, we've talked about these games a lot. I don't think we spoke too much about Ollie Ollie 2 at the time. But yeah. That gaming franchise it is simple ball busting, but there is a unique fun to that.
Yeah. There's when you manage to sort of learn the route, I guess, and make it work.
Yeah,
it is satisfying.
Yeah, and it feels like a Vita game, doesn't it? It feels like that's the right place for it to be.
Yeah,
cool. So, we're on to our wildcard games now. So, basically, you could pick whichever game you want off this list that you would want on a collection for a PS Vita. I am going to start off with Danganronpa Trigger Happy Havoc.
Oh, yeah.
In at number 9.
That is unexpected.
Oh, really?
Say,
oh,
yes.
Right, okay, that's interesting. Because it technically is a PSP... end of PSP life game, but then they kind of ported it to the Vita because they clearly realised that they had something really good there. Have you played?
No, but I have played for, like other things from the same stable.
Yeah,
which is kind of why I'm raising an eyebrow at you right now.
Really? Yeah. Why? What is this? Because
I have their work pegged as being like
not what I would want to play.
Like quirky visual novel type stuff, and involved plots often involving darkness, brutality, and murder.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Yeah, it's fine. It's okay. But that's it though, isn't it? It's darkness, brutality, and murder, but done in a weird, quirky way.
Yeah, fair point. Again, it's brightly coloured.
Yeah. And I will credit you with this as well. Like, as in, and also Fiona. Like, as in. To start seeing the value, not that I didn't see the value necessarily, but I've just played more of them and enjoyed more of them in a different way and stuff.
Embrace the weird
of the weird visual novels. Like, as in, so the Hatful Boyfriend, even Ace Attorney.
Don't think it's on this list, incidentally.
And then I really enjoyed Doki Doki Literature Club as well. Like, as in, I played that.
Course,
so I feel like. That probably, if I hadn't have played that, for example, then maybe this wouldn't be necessarily the thing I would have been chosen off this list. But like you say, it's a visual novel murder puzzle sim that basically has spawned an entire world, effectively, that is in games, and also lots of different things around it, the manga and TV shows and stuff. So yeah, it feels like a really influential game, and therefore like something that I'd like to at least try out and see what it's like. So yeah, that's my first wild card.
Nice. Mine, I think if I'm going to go with that one. Dragon's Crown.
Okay.
So I mean, anybody that's listened for a while will know that it's a personal favourite of mine. And yeah, sits nicely in that sort of middle ground between side-scrolling beat 'em up and RPG. Kind of light on the RPG mechanics. Basically, looks great. And I think if anybody was going to reboot Golden Axe for 2025, this is where I'd be looking for my inspiration.
This is it.
It just so happens that the art style is a lot more painterly rather than anything that I think a Golden Axe would do. But it definitely reminds me of that with the extra little bits and bobs around it.
Did you mention this in the breath of the best game you've ever played at some point? Was it? I can't remember. Was it Dragon's Crown? Was that? Am I being right about that?
It would be up there. I don't know, in the cold light of day, if I would honestly, hand on heart, say that this was the best game I've ever played. I don't think I would. However, this would be a lot closer to that mark than others.
Okay. Yeah,
like, it's definitely a personal favourite, and it's definitely one that I still go back to occasionally. I would struggle to say off the top of my head whether or not I've put more time into it over the years than anything else on Vita.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if I had. Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
So you said side-scrolling, like, as well. Like, it feels like the Vita is quite a good home for those sort of games as well. That you kind of, I'm thinking like Salt and Sacrifice, for example. That's like really well liked and
kind of bulky 2D things where you can spend a bit of time on your artwork and all that. Definitely, and I mean, there's a reason that Vanillaware and their stuff pop up so many times in my long list. A bit of a sucker for it.
Yeah, no, fair enough. So I am going to pick next, and this is the first time I feel like I'm hoping I'm picking something off a long list of yours and ramming it down your throat. Hotline Miami. I need Hotline Miami. Like, if anybody listened to the podcast last year when I played it. And I said at one point, and I was like, do I regret saying that? Because it sounds like I'm a bad person. But the more I think about it, the more it does express how I feel about the game. Like, I was genuinely thinking about that game morning, noon, and night while I was playing that game, and I couldn't wait to get back to it. And you know, I think I mentioned something. I was like, I was thinking about when I was putting my kids to bed and stuff. And I was, that sounds a bit murdery.
It does a little bit.
Yeah, it does sound a bit wrong.
But I'll tell you what, like the other week where we were talking about the Doom soundtrack and like how it's music to get stuff done to, like some of the Hotline Miami soundtrack popped up on my phone the other day, and I was like, oh, this is also this is music to get stuff
I will
done
also
to.
get shit done.
This is like, you just start hearing certain tunes and you're like, oh yeah, this is when I'd be kicking in the doors at that police station. Like, oh, what is wrong with you?
That's what's so good about video games is that they're like, as a human being, I generally, like, as in, I try and see the good in all of the human beings, and I love the world, and I'm just like, I try and be a happy-go-lucky kind of person and stuff, and then I can just dive into this world and murder the fuck out of loads of little pixelated people, and just like, and that's okay, it just because they make it so much fun and it's so tight, and it's just like so yeah. I couldn't leave Hotline Man out there. That I gave, as you could probably hear, I gave it a 10 out of 10 last year on the podcast, and wonderful game. It came in number 13 on this list, and it was. It wasn't a Vita exclusive at the time. I don't think. Maybe it was so. No, but then like you can get it. Wait for it to be on offer in the Switch shop, for example, or on the PlayStation. I think. Oh, is it on? I think it might even be on PS Plus. That is in. So just get it and play Hotline.
I think it's wherever good times are had.
Yeah. Put the music on and get shit done.
Yep.
Cool. Go for it.
Papers, Please.
Gotta
be on there, right?
Another Living La Vita Loca podcast, darling.
Yeah, absolutely. 3. And it's with good reason. Like it does something different narratively. It does something different mechanically. It's the kind of setup kind of situation that I would struggle to think of any other game that's done anything like it. And it's possibly like the best sort of touch screen type experience I've had, and certainly any other ones that I've had that have come close are basically doing the same thing, where theoretically you are sat in one place and you are just doing tactile things around you. But this ties it all together in a way that is simultaneously engaging and incredibly stressful.
Trying to get across that border, Jesus. It just feels like it's the fact that they made that game, and it just feels so relevant all the time. Like
it's weirdly ageless.
Yeah. As a concept, that's cool. That was on my long list certainly, because you were just so effusive about it, and I remember, and that, do you know what? That was the moment I knew our podcast was like going to stick around for us personally, certainly, like in terms of, because I was like that review there like made me emotionally feel something where I was like, all right, yeah, that sounds like a really good game, and I love listening to that. That's so that worked out well, at least it has so far. Right then, so last couple of games then for our own wildcard games. I'm going to pick up something a little bit lower down the list. It's in at 33. Velocity 2X.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like a vertical and side-scrolling shooter, which from 2014, and it's all about speed. Basically, it's all about just really quick sort of shmuppy kind of elements where the things that I've started to become addicted to in gaming that are just like how quick that probably comes back from Sonic 2, for example, when I was a kid and stuff. Like, how quick can you do something as an impressive feat? How well does a game work at speed? It feels like every time you have a run at something, that is that perfection could be just round the corner. Chasing that golden egg, that is has become a real thing for me in video gaming. This is something that I don't know if it's come off the Vita yet or not, but I know that there was a PSP game called Velocity, and then this came along as sort of the sequel, effectively. And I've dabbled a little bit with it. I'll probably try and play it for the podcast at some point as well, because the first few levels, I was like, I could get stuck on this for in a good way. I could get stuck on this for a long time. So yeah, that's going there as a subjective one. It's on the top 100 list. I don't know if it would be for everybody, but it's certainly for me to be like, oh yeah, that's the kind of thing I'd have on my Vita like all the time.
Yeah. Nice. Am I? Yeah, I am.
Yes, you are.
Yeah, I am. Helldivers.
Okay. Interesting.
So there's a couple of reasons I'm umming and ahhing about this. I don't necessarily think that playing it on a Vita is the best way of playing it.
No. Okay.
And yet it's the main way I have ever played it. I have it on PS4. Mm-hmm. I had it on PS3. And yet Vita was the way that I would play it. And I really like the kind of slightly satirical tone which they've really lent into for the sequel, all that kind of stuff. It stands as being quite different because it's a top-down shooter rather than a third-person one. But it is something that I just keep occasionally dipping my toes back into. And you're meant to play it, 4-player co-op and go in guns blazing and friendly fires on and all that kind of stuff. I have never once played it online or with any other people.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
I've only ever played it on my own.
Yeah,
and that's not deliberate. It's just that whenever I've picked it up to play it, it's either been when I've not had PlayStation Plus, or I've been on a coach or a train and the signal's been spotty, for whatever reason, it's a multiplayer game that I've never multiplayed. and yet I still kind of have a real soft spot for it.
That was why I thought it was interesting you picked it up, because I was a bit like, you've answered the question already, but I was a bit like, oh, well, I know that the people that play on Helldivers 2, it's very much a multiplayer online sort of experience. And I was like, that's not you.
No, this is the thing. Like, I am not one for multiplayer online games, really, outside of a select handful. Don't get me wrong, like, I probably went in back in the day and all that kind of stuff, but it's not really something that I would be on my kind of go-to list nowadays. But I think, like, Helldivers 1, was still that multiplayer focused experience, and yet it never forced me to do it. Like, it still felt like I could enjoy the bits of it that I wanted to enjoy without that. And I think that's a really clever bit of design and how they put it together to enable that, but is also the main reason I've not reviewed it yet. Because, like, that is a fundamental part of that game that I'm not going anywhere near. But
it's good that I mean, that you found the way that you want to play it, and it's there. Do you know what I mean?
And it works.
Yeah.
So this is in lieu of me reviewing it properly.
Yeah.
I recommend it. Even as a single player experience, it won't be the same because how could it be?
Yeah.
But if you are in the mood for a twin stick shooter that's going to sort of make you try and pick your targets carefully and go around the houses a little bit because you don't want to get caught and all that kind of stuff. Do a little bit of not quite stealth, but you know what I mean. Like it'll scratch an itch, kind of like a slower paced Hotline Miami. But as soon as everything goes wrong, like it gets
a fast pace
quickly. Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. Cool. Okay, so down to our last ones then. Last wild cards. Go back to that thing about me not being able to count, and when you said, "Oh, it's 9," and I was like, "Oh shit, I missed one." So you'll have to excuse me for my short review of this in terms of, well, not review, but almost let you know why I pick it. So I put last, and I was trying to think again what would be a good quintessential sort of Vita experience, if you will. And I know that I really enjoyed this on the PSP, and I've enjoyed it going to the Switch. And I'd love to play this version as well, and probably will at some point. Lumine's Electronic Symphony, can't speak anymore. So I've just got the word addictive written underneath it. But very much a personal experience that you can kind of share in terms of competition-wise. Like, look at me, mum, look how good I am at Lumines. That is, you can do that and sort of, I remember having an experience with a chap called Retro Game Den where we had like PSP competitions. I'm losing my voice, sorry, because I was at a festival yesterday. I remember just being, it just feels like that. Not that Tetris is lost at all. Like Tetris is still absolutely incredible. It just feels like that the right evolution of Tetris. You know what I mean? To have in your hands and stuff. It feels like a PS Vita era, PSP, PS Vita era, like Tetris style game where it's evolved to that point where you're like, oh, this is my kind of Tetris that I want. And I love it. So yeah, I enjoy playing it, and I'd be interested to see what the Vita version is, especially because it is a little bit of a different sort of version from the other ones I've played. So yeah, that'd be my one.
Nice. I am having a quick scan of the list because I've got one on here that I want to make. Oh, there it is. Okay, cool. I just had this awful moment of like, is this actually on here? Right, seeing as this is my last one, I am going to do a couple of really quick honourable mentions.
Oh yeah, cool. Do that. That's
for ones that were kind of on the long list that I'm probably not going to go for. Earth Defense Force 2.
Yeah, played that before.
Like, yeah. Like it's fine, but like I'm a sucker for the series. There's just something about that series. Like, and I never play any of them for very long.
Yeah,
it's just that there is just something about the whole like schlocky thing that it does that keeps bringing me back. Disgaea 4.
Okay.
Very nearly got the nod because I have been trying to get into it enough to feel like I can review it. However, as mentioned with RPGs, this one in particular, it's long, really long. Okay. Like if you're going to get a decent amount out of it, you've got to put the time in. Touch My Katamari. Very nearly got the nod. Didn't because it's not beautiful Katamari.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Is it? I bet you're just going to be like, because it's not my favourite Katamari.
Not my Katamari.
Yeah.
Muramasa Rebirth nearly got the nod as well.
Yeah, that's quite high up in the list here. I think I saw it number 6. Again, it is like for people voting for that
Vanillaware stuff. So ultimately, it's just because I prefer Dragon's Crown, or when I prefer it, I need to play more Muramasa Rebirth again. But like, I've spent more time over the years with Dragon's Crown.
You give that like an 8 out of 10 maybe?
Yeah, it was up there, but I'm still like, I feel like I could get more out of it.
Yeah.
And if I had spent as long with it as I've played Dragon's Crown, this conversation might be going a little bit differently.
Yeah, okay.
The one that is getting the nod though, and I'm kind of surprised it hasn't been picked up, is Undertale.
Okay.
So quirky RPG. As soon as you get into the fights, it's basically a bullet hell. But it's the characters and the story that do it. And again, it's hipster critical darling. So like my list is very much on brand. But would encourage anybody that is that way inclined and likes a good bit of writing to go and check it out. I have not played as much of it as I would like, which is the reason that I've not reviewed it. so far,
Fair
but
enough.
it's on my radar.
Cool. Okay, so that was our PS Vita collection. So we'll just run across down the last 5 that we picked ourselves as well. And so I opted for Hot Shots Golf as my sports game, and then a wild card I had Danganronpa, Trigger Happy Havoc, Hotline Miami, play it, and Velocity 2X and Lumine's Electronic Symphony.
And on this side of the table, we've got Ollie Ollie 2, Papers, Please, Helldivers, Dragon's Crown, and Undertale.
So, with all that in mind, and then this experience really as well, and like I say, I'll share those, and you'll have to send me those, and I'll share them on social so we can look at the lists and compare them. And with that in mind, then is obviously we were kind of concerned and say, oh, we're running out of things to play on the Vita and stuff. 2 things spring to mind. One, there's so many RPGs and they're all so fucking long that that makes it difficult to a lot of the best games are really lengthy RPGs, which makes it difficult because as a podcast that goes weekly, it's very difficult to kind of do that and keep up to those.
It says a lot about the kind of people that buy a Vita, play a lot of stuff on Vita, and then feel the need to vote in a community.
Yeah, true. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. And then secondly, do you feel like there's still a lot out there really then in terms of I mean, for me personally, obviously, for the first couple of years of the podcast, I've covered mostly PSP, and then you've done the Vita, so you've played more of the Vita stuff. That's why I was asking you the question. Was almost because you've gone through quite a lot already, but then and in your list you picked quite a few things you'd already played as well and reviewed.
Yeah. I mean, I think the thing that jumps out at me from this list is the kind of lack of beloved sports games.
Yeah.
There's not much in there, and I don't know what that tells you about the kind of person that's going to buy a PS Vita, or the quality of the sports games.
Was there only because when you talk about when you talk about virtual tennis before, so I put that as an option possibly for me, on my list, and it was an exclusive sort of extended version at the time of that of the World Tour. But I put as well, only tennis games come out on the Vita. And I'm like, well, actually, it's pretty impressive because the fact that it's just even had a tennis game on the Vita, because does that mean, it's feels like there was only one Madden, or was there any Maddens?
There was a Madden, but I think it might have been one that didn't necessarily get released in Europe.
Which is just that's insane to kind of see that sort of thing where for a game that comes out yearly in every single other console, and then just to go, I'm not going to bother with the Vita.
Well, I mean, we did get a FIFA as well, and all that kind of stuff. But I think compared to the PSP, I just don't have it pegged as having as many sports games.
Yeah, there's tons on the PSP.
So, I mean, I don't know if back in the day on the digital store, online store, maybe there were more options.
Yeah,
that's the only thing I can kind of think of as being a sort of get out. As for do I still feel there's a lot of stuff out there? Yeah, of course. There's quite a few on the top 100 that I don't recognise. I can do the vast majority of them, but there's definitely a couple that I'm like, you know what? I'm not entirely sure I have heard of that.
Yeah.
So that is kind of encouraging. Also, I've just spotted Sound Shapes. That's annoying. I should have spotted that for the platform.
Oh yeah, I read about that. It sounded really cool, actually.
And it is. Yeah. And yeah, that. There is stuff out there. At the same time, though, there's stuff out there for certain genres, and I just, I do think that, I mean, it's not lost on me the fact that my list is basically the collection that I have. The games that I'm likely to play. I'm not being paid for this or anything like that. I
wait, what?
No, I'm surprised. But
I'll look at a contract for you.
But time is a premium as well.
Yeah.
I want to be playing stuff that I know I'm going to enjoy.
Well, that's it, isn't
so
it?
there's not really much incentive for me to go and take a punt on something that I've never even heard of. So yeah, I'm kind of what's the word? I'm not
ambivalent.
Maybe not. Jaded feels like too strong a word. But looking at the top 100 in front of me, I feel reasonably comfortable that I have played a representative sample of it.
Yeah.
I think that's probably where I'm coming down on it. Not a comprehensive list by any stretch of the imagination, but based on that and what people gravitate towards, I think I have played enough of those to go, okay, well, that's kind of the sort of high end of the library.
It's easier for me to get excited because obviously I've not played hardly anything. So therefore, it's like, whereas... for example, the PSP and stuff, it'd be like, all right, okay, then I can kind of start to look around it, because I sometimes go, what have I got that I want to play next and stuff, and I'll look at the 1,000 games that came out for the PSP, and I'll still go, let's see, what have I got left that I really, really, really want to play? And there obviously will be stuff out there, but
But I do in general, and I know I've said about it before, but I do in general get the impression that the Vita library is fundamentally, at least in Europe, reasonably limited.
Yes.
And I mean, sure, you can import stuff and all that, but it's that you start to get into that tricky realm of, well, I don't speak Japanese. Can I switch the languages?
Like,
and if I can't,
come over and translate this.
Can I get enough out of it to comment confidently? And I'm not sure I would.
Yeah, cool. Oh, awesome. Right, I really enjoyed that again. I enjoy our episodes where we do these every so often, because it's just nice little, not that playing video games is difficult or doing the podcast is difficult, it absolutely isn't, but it's nice to have a little sort of break, let us in proceedings where you're like, oh yeah, let's have a little read of this, I'll have a little think about it, and get thoughts and feelings, without having to talk about a review of a video game. So that's cool. Awesome. Right, thanks for sharing your time with us, guys, and we will speak to you again real soon.
Cheers.